Hello, my name is Brendan and I'm a Canadian economics teacher here in Hangzhou. I've been living here for 4 years now and I love this city. It's really urban and also very scenic. Alright, now let me introduce you to Lingyin Temple. Lingyin Temple sits at the foot of Lingyin Hill, just west of Hangzhou's West Lake, with the North Peak at the back and Feilai Peak in front. It is an especially charming place amid green woods, chirpy birds, and floating clouds. To those who have been here before, it is no surprise that it has earned the nickname Cloud Forest Temple. Dating back to the Eastern Jin Dynasty, Lingyin Temple is over 1,600 years old and is one of China's 10 great Buddhist monasteries. Construction was initiated by Indian monk Feilai, who traveled over the Central Plains to Zhejiang province in the 4th century. He believed the picturesque mountains were a refuge for the immortal spirits, so he built a temple among them and named it Lingyin, which means soul's retreat in Chinese. Ji Gong is another monk whose name is intertwined with the history of Lingyin Temple. Although portrayed as having magical powers in books and movies, he was a real person named Li Xinyuan. Born in 1148, grandson to military officer Li Wenhe of Tiantai, he chose Lingyin as his place of conversion. Folktales surrounding Ji Gong are quite bizarre. However, the reality is that he was an eccentric man and a talented and knowledgeable monk. His behavior stood out from his peers. He lacked their reserved nature, drank wine, and even ate pork. He was considered an outcast of the Lingyin Temple, sometimes drawing the ire of his supervisor. However, when his behavior was reported to a senior monk named Huiyuan, he did not expel Ji Gong from the temple. Instead, Huiyuan replied, "The Buddhist world is vast enough to accept an unrestrained monk." This ended the criticism of Ji Gong's eccentricity. In the 10th century, Lingyin underwent 2 expansions. At one point, it became a grand complex that comprises 9 buildings, 18 pavilions, and 72 halls. It had 1,300 rooms and accommodated over 3,000 monks. At the entrance of the temple is the Hall of Heavenly Kings, along with a plaque that reads, Cloud Forest Temple, handwritten by Emperor Kangxi of the Qing Dynasty. In the middle of the hall sits a statue of a laughing Buddha, chest exposed. It is carved from a single piece of camphor wood dating back to the Southern Song Dynasty. The single-story, double-eaved, triple-roofed hall of the Great Sage stands 33.6 meters high, in which stands a 25-meter-tall statue of Shakyamuni, carved from wood and painted in luxurious gold. The halls, pavilions, stone pagodas, and Buddha statues of Lingyin Temple are all precious cultural relics, considered to be priceless artifacts of Buddhist history, architecture, and sculpture. Besides being a cultural and historical landmark, the temple itself is a serene garden with grottos, streams, pathways, and monolithic rocks throughout. Not far from the Hall of Heavenly Kings sits the famous Cool Springs Pavilion. Tang Dynasty poet Bai Juyi wrote a famous essay about the Scenic Temple, and Su Dongpo, a Song Dynasty mayor of Hangzhou, regularly brought his friends to the temple for meals. Feilai Peak in front of Lingyin Temple is also known as Lingjiu Peak. Su Dongpo especially loved the view from this peak, once commenting, "I consider everywhere in this mountain my home, but Feilai Peak is my favorite." Some call the temple a rock zoo. There are fantastic rocks there that resemble a mighty dragon, a running elephant, a crouching tiger, and a frightened ape. The peak itself is densely covered by old trees and thick vines. Of all the peaks by the West Lake, Feilai is unrivaled, remarked the poet Yuan Dao. It is a masterpiece of nature, the crown jewel of the 5 holy Zen hills. Limestone caves and cracks of differing sizes are everywhere around the peak. At one point, there were 72 caves that could be explored. However, today, most of them are closed off. There are only a few that remain to the southeast, such as Longhong, Yuru, Shexu, and Huyuan. Each has a story or legend in history. The southernmost cave, called Qinglin Cave, contains a big rock that is called Ji Gong's bed, because it is rumored that when Ji Gong was a monk, he often came to this cave to sleep on the rock. This stone bed is now carved with the images of the 18 arhats. Over 340 Buddhist grotto statues sit on the slopes of Feilai Peak, dating all the way back to the period of the 5 dynasties. Most of them are from the Yuan dynasty and are still in excellent condition. The cheerful, bare-bellied, laughing Buddha draws the most attention. It is the largest statue in Feilai Peak grottos, a masterpiece of the Song dynasty Buddhist art. However, The representative piece of the statues is the carving of the three Western saints, situated at the entrance of Qingling Cave. The grottos are timeless treasures of ancient Chinese stone art. They are very important in the history of Chinese grottos, like the Dazu rock carvings in Sichuan. Southwest along the stream is the middle Tianzhu Temple, 2 years younger than the lower Tianzhu. Together with the upper Tianzhu, the trio is called the Three Tianzhu Temples. At the peak, there are many rocks, caves, and statues to discover. This is somewhere where you can soak yourself in the slow and tranquil pace of ancient life. Somewhere you can admire the peaks and temples, where you can truly get a sense of the history of this millennia-old city. 杭州欢迎你